What the hell is Sauce Sports or whatever that last call was talking about? What the hell is that?
Guys are from Free Love, man.
What's the motherfucking deal, man? Welcome to Sauce Sports. I am your host, Ed Honcho. If you're not familiar with Sauce Sports is a Houston, Texas homer network. It means we're talking all sports, but only Houston. This is primarily the Texans channel. If you want that other H-Town sports teams talk, make sure you go to saucesports.tv. Make sure you follow Sauce Sports on all the proper social medias listed below. Today, we're going to get into the 5 keys to watch when it comes into this Titans versus Texans game, Week 17 here in Houston. Let's stop wasting time, man. Let's just get in it to win it. All right, so the first key to watch this game is going to be the absence of Will Fuller. Will Fuller not being healthy, life without Will Fuller, if you will. Now having a groin injury to go along with the nagging hamstring injury that's been bothering him all season. They said he's out 2 to 3 weeks, which could mean not only this game, but possible playoff games as well. You know, and I know there's been a lot of debate back and forth about the status of Will Fuller, Will Fuller's future. You know, they picked up his 5th-year option, so that's, you know, we'll see him at least another year. But as dynamic as Will can be, Will Fuller has yet to crack the 700-yard mark in a season. It's come very close. It was very close this year. But with him not able to complete games, again, like I said, the nagging hamstring injury, we've seen various injuries throughout the years, yet to have had a full season. So I think it comes into question what happens with Will Fuller, you know, after next year and where the Texans go from there. Is he trade bait or anything like that? I'd like to know your thoughts in the comment section below, what you feel is the future of Will Fuller when it comes to the Houston Texans. But as the Texans go, as Will Fuller goes, so when Will Fuller's out, this offense, it decreases significantly. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play the Titans, what route they try to go. And again, like I say, it's not a good sign for the Texans, not only for this game, but for the next upcoming game. But let's go ahead and get to the next key right now. All right, let's get into the number 2 key to watch. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. This is the number 1 Texans channel on YouTube. Go live every night at 7 o'clock, hour before game days, and immediately after game, live call-in shows. Become a part of Sauce Nation. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. But the number 2 key that I want to get into is healthy Henry's hamstring. Can it hinder Houston? Don't you love that wordplay? Last game we saw Henry in Tennessee. He sat out the whole week of practice. He didn't quite didn't quite have that burst that he's been having in a lot of games this year. I think the Texans were able to take advantage of that. And now he missed last week's game. He didn't play. Going to get some rest probably this week. And then coming into this game should be a lot healthier. So will we expect to see a different performance from Henry compared to last week? Because, again, he's been dynamic all year. He's been putting up the numbers. He had a nice little streak going before that Texans game. But he hasn't always fared very well in Houston, whether healthy or not. So we'll see ultimately what happens with Henry. But be paying attention to that hamstring and how that helps or hurts the situation in Houston. Well, let's get to the third key right now. Now, get into the third key. Doesn't really pertain to the Texans and Titans game, but it has an impact on the Texans and Titans game. And what that means is checking for the Chiefs. The Chiefs will play an earlier game versus the Chargers, and depending on the outcome of that game, the Texans still have a possibility of obtaining the 3rd seed. Now, in my personal opinion, if the Chiefs win that game and you have nothing to play for, fucking get you a fake bye week and rest your guys, maybe play them a half. Don't go all out trying to, you know, prove something or whatever, because we can't afford to risk any more injuries anywhere, especially on that offensive side of the ball, because you've seen some issues already with Tunsil having an ankle issue. You have, of course, Steels, I think, has a knee issue. You have Will Fuller having the groin issue and he's out. So, I mean, going into the playoffs, you're going to need all the weapons that you can possibly have. Otherwise, we're going to stumble and have a situation similar to last year versus the Colts, when the only guy you had was Hop, and he was also hurt, but he played through a litany of injuries last year. So, my personal opinion, if the Chiefs game basically keeps you pinned in the 4th seed, don't entertain too much time with your starter. Get them out there, get the blood flowing, get it going, you know, get some game experience. But my personal opinion, don't risk the injury, maybe a half, maybe a quarter, whatever you want to call it. But the Chiefs game, very important significance on the outcome of this game and whether or not it's important for the Texans to go all out. But let's go ahead and get to the 4th key. And the last 2 keys I think are extremely important when it comes to this game, and just stay tuned. So the fourth key to this game, I think, is extremely important. Actually, might be the most important key, but I made it fourth for a particular reason. The quarterback's back. Deshaun Watson has a back injury, which has had him limited in practice coming into today. So, again, that pertains kind of with the checking for the Chiefs situation. And do you put Deshaun Watson out there and risk his health knowing that you need him for the playoffs? Or do you allow him to rest? If the Chiefs, like I said, if the Chiefs win and you have no advantage either way, then why risk it? Why put it out there? Just to pad it for another win, that really means it's really insignificant. Other than just saying, hey, we might have got another win. And if you don't win, then what? If the outcome is negative for the whole situation, then what? Is it really worth it? So my personal thoughts are, depending on the outcome of the Chiefs game, if you have nothing to play for, if you're not fighting for a third seed and a chance to, adjust your position in the playoffs, then I don't see why it would make sense, in my opinion, to risk Deshaun Watson. Now, on the other hand, Deshaun Watson is a warrior. We've seen him play through injuries. We've seen him with the cracked rib situation. You've seen ACL situation. We've seen all these things. So we know that the guy's going to go. If he can go, he's going to go. So this is not to undermine his own will. But sometimes you have to protect players from themselves. And again, the Titans, they feel like they have something to fight for. So they're going to be out there giving it their all. The Texans, depending on the outcome, it's neither here nor there. So I think the intentions that each team will have is going to be a little bit different. And I just think you have to compare, the risk-reward factor when it comes to Watson. Do you further aggravate it possibly? Do you rest him? Let's see what A.J. McCarron has. Y'all know my thoughts on that. I've spoken to that many times on stream. But where do you go from there? I'd like to know your thoughts on this one particular. Drop that in the comment section below. Do you rest Watson and allow him to have some more rest going into the playoffs? Do you play him to keep the blood flowing? Do you try to have the best record you possibly can? What is your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this situation? And while you're doing that, we're going to get into the fifth and final key right now. All right, so before we get into the fifth and final key, make sure you stay tuned after this so you can check out the comment of the day. As you know, every time we do the top fives, we end up with a comment of the day. And if you want to be the comment of the day, all you got to do is, like I said, a couple of times I've asked you to leave comments on the video. You leave a comment or leave a comment of whatever you feel like in reference to the video. And if it's a good comment, we'll pick it and put it on the next video. And, you could possibly be comment of the day. But getting into the fifth and final key, let's talk about the Titans' history in Houston. It's a new year coming up. Happy holidays, happy new year, whatever you celebrate, however you get out, or whatever. But the Titans have not won in Houston since January 1st, 2012. If the Texans are coming to play with a reason, I expect that trend to continue. If not, if the Texans are just saying, hey, we're going to mail this one in and let's just go ahead and get to the playoffs and do what we have to do, then the Titans might finally break that streak. But all I'm saying is history in Houston for the Titans does not bode well. Actually, it bodes very poorly for them. So, again, we'll see ultimately what happens. We talked about earlier that Henry doesn't always have the best success in Houston. And, it's interesting, even with some of the poor seasons that we've had, that they've struggled in this city for so long. So I find that extremely interesting. But that is the fifth key. Let's go ahead and get immediately into the comment of the day. But before we get into the comment of the day, make sure you're following Saw Sports on all the proper social media. Saw Sports HTX on Instagram and Twitter. Go like the Saw Sports Facebook page. Become a part of the Saw Sports Facebook group. All the links are in the description below for you to be able to do any of those things. Make sure you're following Saw Sports on all major podcast platforms. Been saying that we're going to get that back going. Probably kick that back off at the beginning of the year and get that back in rotation as far as dropping the podcast. And if you like the channel and you would like to support the channel, consider becoming a Patreon subscriber. You can chat with us live during sports games on the Discord, whether it be the Rockets, the Astros, the Texans, or whatever it may be. You can get with us through me and the round table, and we chat live during all these sporting events or whatever's going on. And like I said, become a part of that conversation. Come join the Discord and via Patreon. But let's get into the comment of the day. A very particular and very interesting comment. Let's get to that right now. All right, so today's comment of the day comes from Everett Peoples. And shout out to Everett Peoples. He's been holding down the comment section. I've been seeing you put a lot of stuff out there. But he says, Honcho, all I'm going to say is that it's looking a lot like last season. We're falling off at the end of the season. I'm damn near scared to play anyone in the playoffs. Unless we get matched up with Pitt in the first round, we're one and done. Shit got to change, bro. all we got is a hope and a prayer in the postseason. And I appreciate that comment, Everett. And, I'm going to be honest with you. And I've talked about, that the Texans haven't put up 30 points in a game since Kansas City. And the only other game they had this season was against the Falcons with the 53. That this dynamic offense hasn't looked so dynamic, especially with Will Fuller out of the lineup. And we know that the defense is lacking in several faculties. And so there's no excuse. They get paid to play too. We can put some of it on Cornell. We can put some of it on trades, players that are not here. We can talk about JJ not being here, even though I don't think that's the big, huge difference. We can talk about new secondary players. We can talk about the lack of pass rush. We can talk about a lot of things. But with a record like this, you expect the team to be kind of gelling more so at the time of the playoffs. Let's be honest, after the Patriots game, it hasn't looked great. You can talk about the Denver game, we know. Then you had a couple of games where you kind of squeaked by, where you had some anomalies. And again, Tampa Bay, I think you had as many turnovers or interceptions as you have had like almost all season. The Titans game from very opportunistic plays. Thank God for Justin Reed, merciless guys like that, Blackson, making these plays that were critical. Even Blackson in the Tampa Bay game, because it came down to 3 points. I mean, besides those two halves, never the Texans been blocking punts like that. And so, it's just been, and it's all part of the game. It is what it is. A win is a win. Yeah, we love to say that, but I'm just not confident against these teams that are fringe playoff, not in the playoff teams, where we're barely getting success, and then having to go see some of these other teams, a couple of them that we've already ran into in the Patriots, Kansas City, Baltimore, who are finding their stride or have had a consistent stride for most of the year. I think Kansas City's getting better. The Patriots, when it comes time to win one game, they're going to figure out a way to make it happen. Buffalo is not to be slept on. I think unless you somehow see the Titans again or the Bills, especially in the first round, outside of that, and again, I'm not even counting the Titans out depending on the outcome of this game. And the Bills, you definitely can't count out because if I'm not mistaken, the record is better. It's going to be a tough outing for the Texans. You better hope the Steelers get in or something like that, maybe to get that momentum going in the playoffs so Billy O can get that next playoff win. But even if you play the Steelers, to me, it's not a credible win. Bill O'Brien's lone win in the playoffs is what? The Connor Cook-led Raiders team. It was a terrible team. It was a third-string playoff. Connor Cook's in the XFL, I think, maybe. If not, he's bagging groceries at Aldi's or something. And then you're going to have to see a team led by Doug Rogers, I don't even know his name, the quarterback, or Rudolph or somebody like that. So again, no matter how you come out of that game, win, cool, whatever, a team that kind of backed their way into the playoffs, you lose, it's a fucking utter embarrassment. So again, you better hope that you see a quality team and you got to get a quality win. I'm going to be honest, just the way the Texans have been playing, I know you say, hey, it's just those games that you find a way to win. And that can be true. You just find a way to win because right now they're not clicking. And it's the end of the season. This is the last week of the season. Unless they put out a dominant performance on the Titans, I'm going to have a lot of questions, and it's going to be real interesting come playoff time when we start to have these conversations about who the Texans are matched up with, depending on, again, like I said, the Chiefs game. But, Everett, man, I appreciate your comment. With that being said, Sauce Nation, y'all the freshest motherfucking ingredients in the world. Y'all be cool like y'all be cool. Most of all, y'all stay saucy. It's your boy, Honcho, man. I'm out.
Perfect.